In a decade with aerobics, headbands, and martial arts, Lucinda Dickey didn't just fit in. She became the fantasy, dancer, fighter, VHS icon. She exploded onto the scene with Breakin', 1984. Lucinda played Kelly, aka Special K, a classically trained dancer who falls into the world of street dance. It was pure 80s, neon leotards, boomboxes, backflips in parking lots, and somehow it worked. But just as people were still rewinding her dance battles, she reappeared in something wilder, Ninja 3, The Domination, 1984. Part martial arts flick, part possession horror, part soft drink commercial, the film made absolutely no sense. But Lucinda made you believe it. She wasn't just dancing anymore. She was roundhouse-kicking evil spirits while drenched in neon sweat. And it clicked. For a generation raised on VHS, Lucinda Dickey was a new kind of bombshell. One who could move, fight, charm, and carry a movie no matter how weird it got. She wasn't chasing prestige, she was owning a vibe. And even though she stepped away from acting before the decade was over, her image lives on. In meme culture, cult screenings, and lovingly cracked VHS tapes with her face on the cover. She didn't just star in B-movies, she moved through them like a neon ghost. If Lucinda Dickey was movement, Sybil Danning was presence. She didn't just walk into a scene, she claimed it. Born in Austria, Sybil brought a European coolness into American B-movie chaos. Her accent was real, her delivery was sharp, her wardrobe was basically one long power move. Whether she was playing an Amazonian warrior, a futuristic space queen, or a biker in black leather, she brought authority with cleavage and made it look like the most natural thing in the world. In Howling 2, 1985, she delivered one of the most bizarre and unforgettable moments in VHS history. A scene where she rips off her top, replayed on loop during the end credits, over and over again. It wasn't subtle, it wasn't refined, it was Sybil Danning cinema. But here's the thing, behind the image, she was in full control. Sybil produced, wrote, and even co-founded her own production company. She knew exactly what she was doing, feeding the male gaze with one hand, while flipping the script with the other. She was sexy, yes, but never cheap. She played the game, and often she wrote the rules. To this day, she remains one of the most respected cult figures of the VHS era. A star who refused to be just a body, even while putting her body on every poster. Sybil Danning didn't just appear in B-movies, she made them iconic. While some bombshells ruled the battlefield or the dance floor, Barbara Crampton conquered the mad scientist labs and haunted basements of 80s horror. She wasn't just a scream queen. She was the thinking fan's scream queen. Barbara first caught major attention in Reanimator, 1985, a cult horror classic where she played Megan Halsey, the kind of role that demanded both vulnerability and total chaos. She went from romantic lead to severed head experiment victim in a matter of scenes. From there, she became a familiar and welcome face in the wild world of 80s horror. In From Beyond, 1986, she shared the screen with grotesque creatures, flesh-melting machines, and a glowing S&M wardrobe. But no matter how bonkers the plot got, Barbara grounded it. She brought sincerity, intelligence, even when the tentacles were flying. And perhaps her most underrated gem? Chopping Mall, 1986. Mall security robots go rogue and start vaporizing teenagers? Perfect. And Barbara? She made you believe it, all while trapped in a shopping mall after hours. While other stars faded, Barbara only grew stronger. She returned in the 2010s with a full career renaissance, starring in acclaimed horror like You're Next and producing genre films through her own company. Barbara didn't just survive the B-movie era, she evolved with it, becoming a legend whose work is celebrated by both gorehounds and cinephiles. She proved that you could be a scream queen with a brain and a long-term strategy. If Barbara Crampton was the scream queen with poise, Linnea Quigley was the scream queen with spikes, fishnets, and an attitude. She wasn't just a performer. She was a VHS-era mood. Linnea became a cult icon in Return of the Living Dead, 1985, where she played Trash, a girl who literally strips in a graveyard while talking about her fear of dying, and then becomes a zombie. Yes, that happened. And if you rented horror tapes in the 80s, you've seen that scene burned into the cover art of your memory. But Linnea wasn't a one-hit cult wonder. She built an entire B-movie career around being the wild card. The girl who would scream louder, wear less, fight harder, and go farther than the script ever demanded. From Night of the Demons to sorority babes in the slimeball bowl-o-rama, she was everywhere, and fans couldn't get enough. She played monsters, victims, punks, cheerleaders, demon-possessed teens, often in the same movie. And through it all, she owned her image. Linnea embraced the B-movie life completely. She went on the horror convention circuit early, connected with fans directly, and released workout videos, calendars, even a horror rock band. Her appeal wasn't just in the movies, it was in how she turned low-budget horror into high-impact fandom. Linnea Quigley didn't try to cross over into prestige. She knew exactly who she was, and gave the audience exactly what they wanted. Brinke Stevens didn't scream the loudest, she whispered fear into the VHS void. With her soft voice, haunting beauty, and piercing gaze, she became the thinking fan's scream queen, the one who looked like she stepped out of a dream, or a curse. A former marine biologist turned actress, Brinke brought more than just looks to her roles. She brought intelligence, control, and a sense of mystery. She wasn't the typical B-movie blonde. She was the dark-haired danger lurking in the background, waiting to flip the story on its head. Her breakout came in The Slumber Party Massacre, 1982, one of the earliest female-directed slashers where Brinke's vulnerability felt authentic and unforgettable. But it was in films like Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-o-Rama and Nightmare Sisters that she found her cult identity. She could go from shy bookworm to seductive demon without missing a beat, and that duality made her a staple of video store shelves across the country. Brinke also did something few others did in the B-movie world. She narrated her career in real time, writing columns, giving thoughtful interviews, and reflecting on the experience of being a genre actress in an industry that didn't always value nuance. She wasn't just an image, she was a storyteller. And while many of her films were low budget, her fan base was fiercely loyal. She turned her scream queen status into an enduring iconography, embraced at horror conventions, in retrospectives, and in dozens of indie projects where her presence gave instant credibility. Brinke Stevens wasn't loud or flashy, she was magnetic, and that made her unforgettable. Julie Strain didn't enter a scene. She dominated it. Standing over 6 feet tall with a voice like velvet and a body straight out of heavy metal album art, Julie wasn't just a B-movie actress. She was a force of nature. Her filmography? Wild. Over 100 low-budget action, sci-fi, fantasy, and erotic thrillers. Titles like Lethal Seduction, The Rowdy Girls, Battle Queen 2020, each one a fever dream of violence, leather, and unapologetic fantasy. But what made Julie different was how aware she was of the spectacle. She leaned into the exaggeration, amplifying the fantasy while never letting the joke be on her. In a world where many actresses got objectified, Julie owned the object and made it part of her brand. She narrated her persona like a comic book character brought to life. And fittingly, she became the real-life model for Heavy Metal Magazine's animated films, most notably Heavy Metal 2000, where she voiced the lead, a warrior woman in a dystopian sci-fi world who looked exactly like her. Off camera, she was whip-smart, funny, and totally in control of her image. She appeared in documentaries, gave interviews where she poked fun at Hollywood snobbery, and even co-hosted late-night cable shows celebrating cult cinema. And while many of her films lived on dusty VHS shelves, her aura became immortal, worshipped by comic fans, horror junkies, and B-movie diehards alike. Julie Strain didn't want to cross into the mainstream. She built her own kingdom, one where big hair, big guns, and bigger attitude ruled everything. She was the queen of the wild side, and she wore the crown like it was made of steel and stilettos. In the golden age of VHS horror, Michelle Bauer was everywhere. You might not have remembered the plot, but you definitely remembered her. She wasn't just another scream queen. She was part of the trio with Linnea Quigley and Brinke Stevens, ruling over the low-budget horror world with charisma, curves, and an unshakable wink to the audience. Michelle exploded onto the cult scene with roles in Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, 1988, The Tomb, 1986, and Nightmare Sisters, 1988, where she often played characters that were as over-the-top as the title suggested. Chainsaws? Sure. Demonic transformations? Of course. Bubble baths with fog machines and eerie lighting? You bet. But behind the ridiculous setups was someone who got the joke and leaned into it. Michelle embraced the camp, the chaos, and the absurdity of B-movie horror with open arms. And she made it work. She wasn't just there to scream and run. She gave those characters attitude, sexuality, and that special cult glow that fans still celebrate today. To this day, she's revered on the horror convention circuit and constantly referenced in retrospectives about the Scream Queen era. Michelle Bauer didn't aim for Hollywood stardom. She became a legend of the shadows, where the movies were cheaper, the blood was thicker, and the fans more loyal than anywhere else. You know that moment when you're flipping through late-night cable or VHS covers, and a face just locks your attention? That was Monique Gabrielle. With classic beauty and a twinkle of comedy in her eyes, Monique was the perfect mix of pin-up and punchline. A bombshell who didn't take herself too seriously, and that made her unforgettable. She started in the softcore world, but didn't stay there. In Deathstalker 2, 1987, she played two roles. One, a tough-talking, sword-wielding heroine, and the other, a ditzy, overly animated villain. She stole every scene, not just for how she looked, but for how she played it all with total self-awareness. She also popped up in Bachelor Party, 1984, Evil Toons, 1992, and a long list of direct-to-video comedies where her timing was just as important as her wardrobe. Monique brought a playful energy to every film. She wasn't just eye candy, she was part of the punchline. And that's what made her stand out. In a genre where many actresses were boxed into cliches, Monique knew how to flip the script with a wink, turning even the most ridiculous material into something fun, sexy, and absolutely rewatchable. When the 90s rolled in, the VHS shelf got sleeker. Darker tones, soft focus covers, and titles like Private Obsession or Animal Instincts. And at the center of it all, Shannon Whirry. She wasn't a scream queen. She was a neo-noir siren. The kind of woman who could draw you in with one glance and ruin your life by the end of the second act. Her roles were steamy, mysterious, and always just a bit dangerous. Films like Animal Instincts, 1992, Playback, 1994, and Private Obsession, 1995, were a staple of late-night cable and video stores' curtain section. But what made Shannon special wasn't just her beauty, it was her command. She took these erotic thrillers and gave them gravity. Even when the dialogue was campy or the plot thin, she delivered lines with confidence, edge, and just the right amount of seduction. Shannon Whirry was the cooler, more controlled side of VHS eroticism, less cartoonish than her 80s predecessors, more psychological. And for many who grew up discovering these films by accident or curiosity, she left an impression that felt cinematic, not just provocative.